Hello fellow YouTubers, Bear Prepper here. Today we're going to talk all about dehydrated pumpkin. This is the beginning of the dehydration process. I've got it baked and I'm going to dehydrate it now. But if you want to see how to do that, I have a YouTube video on how to dehydrate pumpkin. So today we're going to take that dehydrated pumpkin and we're going to make lots of goodies because people have been asking me, well, what do I do with my dehydrated pumpkin? Well, first off, you can do anything you can do with pumpkin, with dehydrated pumpkin, or anything you can do with sweet potatoes. You can interchange the two. There is such a slight difference in flavor that they are completely interchangeable. So make sure you get those sweet potatoes when they're in season and the pumpkins when they're in season, and get yourself some dehydrated pumpkin so you can have these wonderful dishes all year long. So let's get started. Alright, so one of the things that you can make is you can make pumpkin soup. So I'm going to turn my stove on to medium high, and I have 2 cups of rehydrated pumpkin and 4 cups of my home canned turkey broth. You can use chicken broth or beef broth is a little strong. To that we're going to add a half a cup of my Gossner's whipping cream. Let me open it up. Smell it, and we're going to empty half of that into it. You see all that heavy cream on the top? You don't want to use all of that. You want to get some of the separated solids in there, and we're just going to add half a cup of that. We're going to mix it in. You can also do this with your dehydrated sweet potato. They're both interchangeable. And to that we're going to add half a teaspoon of pumpkin spice. Once you've added your pumpkin spice, just whisk it all together. And we're going to let that cook for 10 minutes on simmer. And you have pumpkin or sweet potato soup. Once it comes to a simmer, and you're ready to serve, add 2 tablespoons of butter. And just let that melt into it. Really enhances the flavor. And I always use unsalted butter, but you can use either. So let's move on to pumpkin polenta. For pumpkin polenta, I have 4 cups of water and 1 cup of pumpkin and 2 bay leaves. And what I've done is I brought that to a simmer. Now I'm going to add 1 cup of polenta, and I'm using yellow polenta. Gonna mix that in, and we're going to simmer that for 20 minutes. Last minute, we're going to top it with 2 tablespoons of butter and a half a cup of grated Parmesan. I'm using my food storage Parmesan, but you can make homemade fresh with your powdered milk. And I have a video on that. And I have a video on how to dehydrate the pumpkin if you'd like to see that. And as I said before, you can do sweet potato the same way and use the same recipes. Now remember to stir this occasionally, because you want it to get nice and cooked. And then when it's done, your 20 minutes is up, you're going to take 2 tablespoons of butter. And since there is no salt in this, it is lacking in salt, I'm going to put a quarter teaspoon of salt in there. And then I'm going to add a half a cup of my food storage Parmesan cheese. We're going to mix that up. Oh, it smells wonderfully. Leave it on the stove just long enough for that butter to melt. And go ahead and take out your bay leaves. And once that butter melts, we are done. Okay, so now we're going to make refried beans with pumpkin. I have 2 cups of water and 2 cups of my refried beans that I made. There's a video on that if you want to learn how to make those. To that, we're just going to cook it until it gets nice and thick and bubbly. And then we're going to add 1 cup of pumpkin mash. Dehydrated pumpkin that's been rehydrated. We're going to stir that in, and the one thing you have to remember is 90% of the foods that you do, you don't have any salt in it. So you're going to have to salt things a little bit that you wouldn't normally salt. So we're going to put about 1/4 teaspoon of salt in there. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter, and that is my canned butter. Butter makes everything better. And we're just going to mix it up really good. Refried beans are so easy to make and so much easier to store dehydrated than wasting your jar space. Because I know a lot of you want to prepare them in advance. They rehydrate really fast. Same with the pumpkin or the sweet potato. It rehydrates really fast. And I'm just going to cook this until it gets just a little thicker. It's still just a little wet. And then we're done with those. So now we're going to make pumpkin cookies. First thing you want to do is take 6 tablespoons of softened butter and 1 1/3 cups of sugar and mix it until fluffy. Then you want to add in 1 cup of pumpkin. You want to get all that good pumpkin in there because you want it to taste like the pumpkin. And mix it together. Add 1 egg. And you can use powdered egg, 2 tablespoons plus 2½ tablespoons of water because we want a large egg. I just happen to have eggs on hand. We're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Let it all mix in good. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And 2 cups of flour. These are 1/4 cups, so. I'm going to reserve out the last 1/4 cup. Let me scrape the sides down. And the reason I'm doing that is because a lot of times when you're doing your own pumpkin, it's a lot drier. It's not as wet as that canned pumpkin. So you want to take that into consideration when you're mixing up anything that's like a dough, bread or something like that, because you don't want it to turn out too dry on you. Sorry about the banging. Just trying to get it all off. And we definitely need more flour. Now we're going to drop this by teaspoonfuls. You can use an oiled baking sheet or parchment paper. Today, we're going to do parchment paper. So we drop by teaspoonfuls onto a parchment-lined baking sheet or oil-lined baking sheet, depending on what you have. And we're going to bake these for 12 minutes in a 400-degree oven. And there we have it. We have pumpkin soup. Let's give it a taste. Oh, that is so good and creamy. We have refried beans with pumpkin and a little bit of cheese. Mmm. Very nice. And we have polenta and pumpkin. Mmm. That's good. Probably use a little more salt. We have pumpkin cookies. And we have whoopie pies. With none other than bear bait in it. You can use that hazelnut spread. But bear bait is so much better. Hey, leave the bear bait alone! Oh well, I guess sometimes I have to share. So I hope you make what? Oh my God. She's not supposed to like bear bait. So get your pumpkins dehydrated and create some new meals with them. Blessings.